Hey everybody, this is Mark from Dice Monkey, and I have in my hands the Player's Handbook. Kind of reflecting there. So this is the Player's Handbook. It's really, really beautiful. The cover, you can see there's the fighter or wizard. She's got a staff, so she's probably a wizard or sorcerer of some kind. And she's fighting a big, huge fire giant. And you can see there in the background, there's some giant dogs. And on the back, you have more of the giant dogs, and there's the text on the back. What's interesting is that the book is shiny and reflective, but when you flip it on the back, this section here is actually matte, and it fades into reflective on the side. You can see, yeah, there you go. You see the light reflecting off of it. So it actually feels really dynamic when you're touching it and everything. It switches between that slick and rougher material. The book itself is really, really gorgeous. I noticed this on a few of the books. There's I don't know if everybody's going to have this or not, or if it was just the batch that I ended up with at my shop. The pages here actually ended up sticking together just right on the first page, and I had to sort of be careful to peel that off to keep it from ripping at the paper. But right off the bat, the first piece of artwork is gorgeous. We've seen today was released the Monster Manual's first piece of artwork for the interior, and it was also gorgeous. Some big red dragon. Right on the cover, they show what the cover image is and give credit to the artist and everything, which is cool. There's the whole credit sequence. There's a really, really extensive credits right in there, and it does thank playtesters, the 175,000 fans who ended up helping contribute to it. It does have all of the same additional consultation that was in the starter set, and there's a really good table of contents that covers pretty much everything. The back here, you have 4 pages worth of index, a very, very tiny text. So you should actually have every single thing you need to look up. Should be right in there. There's also an Appendix E, which is basically their Appendix N, additional reading for setting stuff. There's a really nicely written preface by Mike Merles right there. And the introduction is basically your standard, like, what is this game? A lot of the art you're going to see throughout is actually this sort of really nicely styled line art. And it's found in a few places, and it blends really nicely into the background that they've got, which is sort of a nice parchment look to it. Each chapter has a huge full-page piece of art that's really, really cool looking. They give a step-by-step character creation, just like every other previous edition. They do only go up to 20th level, and like 4th edition, which went all the way up to 30th level, which I think is actually a lot better because you don't feel rushed to try to squeeze in 30 levels worth of stuff. The races inside are the dwarf, the elf, which has a few subclasses like the dark elf, the high elf, and the wood elf. Yeah, there's a nice full-page piece of art of a female elf there. There's halflings, humans, which we basically all the races that we knew about. There's the Dragonborn are back, which is nice. I really liked them in 4th edition. Gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, tieflings, and a really nice table that gives a general description of the classes once you get to the classes. So you can actually see, just give everybody, especially people who are new to the game, a quick little overview of what all the different classes are. The classes are really, really nice. There's a really cool bard picture there. Yeah, it's a really great section on classes and everything. You've got a lot of different domains for clerics. You've got a lot of different schools for wizards, which is nice. They have all the rules that you need for animal companions for both druids and the rangers as well. There's really, really cool art for the fighter. I particularly like that one. I've noticed throughout the whole book there's a lot more emphasis on having more people of color, which is, I think, really important because it's not just all a bunch of white people like it has been in the past. There's also some really cool art that's like, this cool tapestry here of the wizard and the fighter going up against a hydra or sea beast of some kind. The monk was also another gorgeous piece of art that I really liked. Hopefully all this art will be found on their website soon enough as well, so we can use it for our own games. There's lots to the classes. It's not as lengthy and involved as it was for 4th edition, which took up like half the book just with the classes, which there's about like half of the classes that are in here for 4th edition. There's a ton more classes here. It's basically all the same classes as 3rd edition, but with the addition of the warlock. And then all the same races as 3rd edition with the addition of the dragonborn and the tiefling. So you can see it goes on for quite a while. Yeah, like I said, there's quite a few really good schools for wizards. This is one of my favorite pieces of art in the entire book. It's the whole group of gnomes / halflings, probably halflings, dancing around the table, listening to the bard. They actually have the dwarvish script, the elvish script, and the draconic script all in the player's handbook, which I appreciate because, as many of you have seen on Dice Monkey, I like to use puzzles that involve those scripts, so if I can have the players have that in their hand, it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to solve the puzzles. Inspiration is in here, and then they go right into the backgrounds. There's a bunch of really cool backgrounds, including like the Hermit and the Outlander. There's the Soldier, which has a just beautiful piece of artwork there. And the equipment is, from what I've seen, it's basically the same as it is in the starter set and in the basic rules, but they have some really, really nice art throughout. There's this cool shot of female fighter or cleric or something. And when she's fighting a skeleton, you can see the top of the skeleton's head has been smashed off, which is pretty cool. A lot of the equipment section has these half pages where it has all these pictures up top, which is pretty cool. There's a lot. I think it feels like there's a lot more mundane equipment than there ever was in 4th edition. Barring the adventurers vaults and things like that. And of course, there's that whole trinket table, which we found in the basic rule, which a lot of people loved so much that I love too. For customization options, they actually require with multi-classing that you have a minimum score of certain things. So being a fighter, monk, paladin, or ranger is actually, or fighter is not actually difficult. Paladin, monk, ranger, and paladin, monk, and ranger are the 3 most difficult to sort of multi-class into because they require 2 of your scores to be 13. And all of these require minimum scores to be 13 to be able to multi-class into any of the other classes. They give rules for how multi-classing works, and then they feature feats, which they explain, how it is you get feats and things like that. Feats are much more involved than they were in 4th edition or 3rd edition. You get lots of benefits rather than just a single benefit like you did previously. So that's the end of part 1. You can see part 1 goes about to there. Part 2 starts, basically it's the second half. And part 2 begins with this gorgeous piece. And it's all about adventuring, using your abilities, basically how to play the game, which is all pretty straightforward. It's the same stuff we've seen in the starter set and the basic rules. But it doesn't really seem like there's much more added to it, but there doesn't really need to be anything more added to it. that was part 2. Part 3, so part 2 wasn't that much more. Let's see, here's part 3. Part 3 is the rules for magic, and that has just basically spell lists for most of the rest of the book, which is standard for any edition, going back pretty far. I'm only in the H's so far. I'm jumping a few. Shocking grasp, things like that. Wanted to get to the end here. For the Appendix A, that's your conditions. So you can see the conditions here. Have these really cool pieces of art that each one covers a different condition, including like paralyzed. The grapple is a really cool image there. And so it explains what each of these conditions are, what they do exactly, and there's a whole second page as well that includes like unconscious and things like that. Some of the pictures are pretty amusing. Some of them are more serious, like you can see the unconscious there. So then we got the Gods of the Multiverse. And the Gods of the Multiverse covers actually a lot of the D&D Pantheons. It doesn't cover the Narath Pantheon from 4th edition, which is a pantheon that I really liked, especially with the Raven Queen, and a lot of the gods were from Greyhawk and things like that. But I really like to see the Raven Queen, and I've heard. I think I messaged Mike Merles, and he had on Twitter, and he had said that I think I may be completely misquoting him, but I think they'll be appearing in the DMG, the Narath gods. I'm assuming there will just be larger pantheon tables in the DMG. So the D&D pantheons covered are the Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, Dragonlance, and Eberron, and then they cover the non-human deities that pretty much show up in any of the settings, including Bahamut is basically everywhere. Harugek, the bugbear god of violence, Wolf is in there, Moradin, Sehanine, Moonbow, basically all the different more obscure gods that all the non-humans worship. And then they go into the fantasy historical pantheons that include the Celtic pantheon, the Greek pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, and the Norse pantheon. So you can actually play in a whole setting that has Celtic deities, including, I can't even pronounce any of these names because though I'm Welsh, I can't pronounce any Celtic names. Ogma's in there though. Ogma from, I believe, from the Forgotten Realms. So there's a few in there that actually I recognize from other settings, which is just like Bahamut and Tiamat are from ancient Babylon. So yeah, it covers pretty extensively. The Norse deities is actually one of the largest sections. Has tons of different ones. So that actually would be kind of cool to do a setting with the Norse deities in there. We then go into the planes of existence. You can see here it talks about the negative and the positive plane, which is significant because when you go to this page and see the whole multiverse, they actually have the Feywild and the Shadowfell in there, which I was excited to see because I'm a big fan of the Pantheon, or the whole multiverse of 4th edition. I'm glad to see it's not gone entirely. There's still some elements there, while still then going in and exploring the 3rd edition and previous multiverse. Then they actually have the creature statistics. You can see here for basically your mundane creatures, which is significant for familiars and summoning creatures and rangers, animal companions, creating undead creatures out of mundane animals, things like that. It includes imps and mastiffs and giant eagles and giant spiders, reef sharks, which is always good, pseudo dragons, which are one of my favorites. They actually do have the rules for skeletons in here. So when you're necromancer and you're summoning skeletons, they do have all the different horses. And then, like I said, there's the inspirational reading, which is their Appendix N. Covers things like some Terry Pratchett, China Melville, George R. R. Martin, Robert Jordan, if you can get through all of those books. Let's see some other ones. J.R.R. Tolkien, of course. Jack Vance. Tolstoy. August Derleth and H.P. Lovecraft, which is always good for your more horrific games. Piers Anthony. Saladin Ahmed, which I thought was really cool to see him in there. He's a really fantastic writer, and he's really big on Twitter and is chatting about role-playing games all the time, which I thought was cool. And then there's a whole section in the from the Dungeon Master's Guide from 1979 by Gary Gygax. It's actually a quote from his Appendix N about like using Grimm Brothers and Andrew Lang and things like that. And then, like I said, there's the big huge index here, and then there's 3 pages of character, because that third page is all your spells and things like that that you can fill in. And then, of course, there's the what comes next, and it's all about how you should go onto their website and buy more stuff and get the starter set and things like that. So that's the Player's Handbook. It's really, really nice. I'm hoping to get the Hoard of the Dragon Queen eventually once it comes out, and I'll definitely be reviewing that. And until then, keep rolling 20s and make sure that you've got inspiration while you're doing it. See ya.